Hello everyone and welcome to this studio cast. Stop setting goals and start achieving them with Jamar Brown. I'm Jeff Allen from Studio Cast Pros and we hope you enjoy this next hour or so. We call this a studio cast because unlike the other 99.9% of webcasts and webinars out there, this event is shot in a studio with professional high-def cameras, virtual set, much like a TV talk show. So you might think of it as a webcast on steroids, if you will. And during this live studio cast, we do encourage your participation by messaging in your questions or thoughts at any time, and our host will try to answer as many of you as possible. So with that said, I'd like to introduce your host for this studio cast, Mr. Jamar Brown. Jamar's president of the Kaizen Way. Kaizen means continuous improvement. He is an author and highly sought after keynote and motivational speaker who helps individuals and organizations create positive changes in order to be the best they can be. Jamar, welcome in. Good
Jeff,
to see you.
Good to see you too.
Thank you. Now, stop setting goals, start achieving them. Yes. I don't get it. I don't get it because how can you possibly achieve something if you don't set it or you don't write it down or know what that thing is? I mean, hopefully we're gonna learn a lot here because I'm completely confused.
Well, you know, it's funny, Jeff. And first of all, I want to welcome everyone to today's studio cast. We're gonna have a great hour or so session. And Jeff, honestly, when I sat down and thought about the goal setting process and the people that I've worked with over the years and the goals that I've achieved, what I realized, ironically, was I actually achieved more things by stop setting goals in the traditional goal setting process, which to me kind of blew me away. But when I really laid out the exact process, I realized that is exactly what happened. I started to achieve more goals when I stopped setting them. So that's why we're calling this studio cast, Stop Setting Goals and Start Achieving Them. So stay tuned and we're gonna learn what that's all about.
I hope so. My wife's counting on you now.
And once again, thank you for all tuning in today and being a part of the studio cast. Please feel free to ask questions. Jeff is gonna be here as your conscience, so to speak, to ask questions and go back and forth. This is not gonna be a didactic presentation where I'm gonna speak at you for the next hour. I wanna make it interactive, I wanna make it fun, I wanna make it lively, so please let's interact and have some fun with this. So let's get started. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is really how to get the most out of this session. Whenever somebody attends one of my programs, I always ask, please do all in your power to learn as much as you can and get as much out of it as you would like to. And so with that said, let me tell you a couple of things that I think will help you get the most out of our session today. The first thing is stay neutral. Now, this is not a session where we're going to look at our goals we haven't achieved and beat ourselves up and talk about what we haven't done in life. We're going to look at the past history of our goal setting and achievement or lack thereof as a learning experience. So it's not good or bad. It's a chance for us to learn about what happened in the goal setting process in the past that prevented us from moving forward and actually achieving our goals. The second thing is enjoy the process. Have fun, ask questions, take notes, and really engage. This is your chance to, you've taken an hour out of your day. I know that you're busy with work and kids and family and everything else, and you decided to invest in yourself, and I really appreciate and respect that. So take the chance on this call or this studio cast to really get involved, ask questions, and engage. And the third thing is, I really think it's important to share your ideas with others. The best way to really internalize what you've learned is to share it. And so feel free to follow me on Twitter, go to my Facebook page, email me info@thekaizenway with any questions or comments, and also you can find me on LinkedIn. So with that said, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I think it's important for me to do this because a lot of times when you have individuals that speak to you about goal setting or about how to achieve your dreams in life or about how to be successful, I think it's important to have a reality-based approach. And several years ago, reality-based programs got big with the Kardashians and all those other shows out there. And it was all about the truth of life. Now I know some of those shows aren't exactly reality, but what I want to do in terms of my background is to share with you that I don't just speak about theory about the things I talk about. They all come from reality of my experience that have been documented over a number of years. And so as Jeff mentioned, I'm a keynote speaker, author, and coach. I went to Whittier College with a degree in business with an emphasis in marketing. And then after college, I actually was a summer intern at Allergan Pharmaceuticals while I was in college for 2 summers, copying, collating, getting water, that type of thing. And then ultimately was hired by Allergan Pharmaceuticals as their youngest sales rep in 1995. And I'm going to talk to you about some of the successes in terms of my background in the medical industry because I spent 17 years there. But then I want to circle back and talk to you about how it almost never happened because I was looking at the goal setting process the wrong way, which almost created a failure experience for me. So I worked for 3 different medical companies: Allergan Pharmaceuticals, C.R. Bard & Oasis Medical. I went from a summer intern to a VP of sales by age 31. I was salesperson of the year, sales manager of the year, won every sales award possible in those organizations. I was the youngest regional sales director and also the youngest VP of sales at a company. And then I did something that some of you on this call or the studio cast might be thinking about, and that is writing a book. And so I've written and self-published 2 books, What's Your Sales Story, which is a sales book, and You're Ugly, not necessarily you or anyone, but it's a story about a child who gets bullied, and it's an anti-bullying children's book designed to help children build confidence and self-esteem in themselves in order to conquer verbal bullies. And then ultimately I founded the Kaizen Way, and that symbol right there is less equals more. And what I really want to impress upon everyone today is I'm not going to give you 20 or 30 things to do. We already have enough things in our lives. We're already busy. We already have so many things we're thinking about. And so it's just like when you want to buy a new outfit. The best thing to do is probably look in your closet and take out what shouldn't be there in order to make room for what should be there. And that is what this process is all about. What shouldn't be there? What is getting in the way of us achieving our goals? And then we're going to put in what should be there. So we're going to eliminate what's getting in the way of your goal attainment. So with that said, my company does a number of things, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but we help companies build a culture of excellence. We help them with communication skills. We help managers understand how to stop managing issues and start leading inspired teams. And we do this with a myriad of companies and organizations. So let's talk about really the root of the program today, which is the idea of failure versus success. And I mentioned earlier that when I was at Allergan Pharmaceuticals, when I had my internship and got hired full time, I, like most people, thought I was going to be God's gift to sales and took on a sales territory in Los Angeles that was ranked pretty much second to last in the nation. And I thought I was going to be the #1 salesperson in the world or at Allergan. And I told all my family and friends and everyone that I was going to be this great sales professional. However, after 2 years in that territory, I found myself sitting here like I'm sitting with Jeff today. I was in front of my boss. And I was literally at the bottom of the rankings, hadn't moved. And my boss told me, Jamar, you're burned out. And I'm thinking, how can I be burned out at 22 years old? But I was burned out, I didn't have the ability to sell. I wasn't the right fit for the organization, and I should probably look for something else. And if you're someone that is in a situation like that, where you think something is supposed to happen in your life, you have a goal that you set for yourself, and you find yourself in a position where you haven't achieved it, and you're looking at yourself like you failed. And that's exactly how I was at that moment. I had a goal. I told everyone around me I didn't achieve it. Matter of fact, I failed miserably. Instead of being #1, I was at the bottom, and I was being told I wasn't good enough. So at that point, and that's why you have this image of the road, there's 2 paths. It's failure and success. The key thing is, you know that if you continue to go down a certain path that's not working, what's the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So I knew at that age that if I keep doing what I'm doing and approaching the goal setting process and approaching sales the way I was approaching it, it wasn't going to work, and it was going to get worse, and I was going to get fired. But the ego gets in the way, and it tells you, well, it's somebody else's fault, it's not my fault, and other people are getting in the way of my success. And what I did at that moment, I said, I had to come to the reality that I needed to change something. Something needed to change in order for me to produce a different result. And the change, you see the success image on the right-hand side, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be successful. It just means that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get the same result. If you do something different, you're going to get a different result. And so that's where this whole idea of stop setting goals comes into play, and that's why I wanted to share this with you. So let's look at what did I do differently that helped me to not get fired and ultimately become salesperson of the year. The first thing was I took responsibility for my situation. And this is really important as we think about our situation right now with our goals in life and to really internalize that and say, you know what, I own this. Let me take full responsibility for my situation. And I also realized the power of thought, the power of the mind in terms of your reality. And that's such an incredible power that we all have. And we're going to spend a lot of time on our studio cast today talking about the power of the mind and how to shift our thoughts in order to put ourselves on the fast track towards achieving our goals. Then I discovered something called the Kaizen Way philosophy, which we're going to talk about towards the end of the studio cast, but it's really a philosophy of how to achieve your goals. And the third thing is I realized that I could achieve more goals by actually not setting them. I stopped setting goals. I stopped doing things that I was taught about the goal setting process and did something totally different and had an incredibly different result, which allowed me to become Salesperson of the Year. And this is all documented in the first book that I wrote, What's Your Sales Story, which tells the entire story of me going from an intern to almost getting fired to Salesperson of the Year. And I highly encourage anyone that's looking for something to help them understand what is getting in the way of their success, and to understand that if they're in a situation like I was way back when you're looking to change something in your life in order to go from not being successful to being successful, then to take a look at that book. So I wanted to tell you my background to let you know that this is not just theory that I'm talking about. These are actual results that I produce, and results that people have produced based on me working with them either at organizations or through one-on-one coaching. I also want to let you know we're going to have a summer sales success series, which is for salespeople out there that are looking to really enhance and grow their sales numbers, starting July 10th. 6 weeks for 1 hour each week, and I'll send you more details on your email about that later on. So the Stop Setting Goals and Start Achieving Them program is really a two-part process. The first part is the shift in mindset that will determine and eliminate what is getting in the way of your goal attainment. As I said before, we're not going to spend our time today talking about 10 things you need to do differently and this whole new program. We're going to help you realize what is getting in the way of your goal attainment. What shouldn't be there? What is a reason why you haven't achieved certain goals that you set for yourself? And that is where we're going to start on this call. The second part is the secret step-by-step process that will set you on a path towards achieving your goals faster and with more fulfillment. And the fulfillment word is critically important, because if you've ever been in a situation like so many people where you've achieved a goal, but you still weren't happy. You thought it was going to bring you happiness and joy, and you achieved it and you felt deflated, alone, and it really didn't do what you thought it was going to do for your psyche. And there's a specific reason for that. So we're going to talk about how do we not only achieve our goals, but to have a feeling of joy and fulfillment once we do achieve our goals. And the 2.0 part of this program is going to be, next Thursday for the most part. So I hope that you can come back in next Thursday, same bat time, same bat channel, and get some more experience and exposure to the whole goal setting process. Now, I would like to say that this is not a guarantee. And my wife and I recently went down to San Diego, stayed at a resort, and we, happened to play a game of checkers, and we haven't done that in about 20 years. But the point is, as I was thinking about that checkers game, I thought, really in life, there really are no guarantees. The only guarantee is if you allow yourself to put yourself in the best position possible for success. You want to put yourself in the best position possible. So just like a game of chess, or for those of you that play poker, you want to start with the best hand. You want to make the best moves to put yourself in the best position possible for success. And this program is designed to do just that, to put you in the best position possible, mentally and in terms of the behaviors you need to go out and achieve your goals in life. And as I'm talking through the program today, I want you to think about 1 or 2 goals you have for yourself that you haven't achieved yet, that are on your mind, and think about those things as we talk through the process of stop setting goals in order to start achieving your goals. So now let's turn it over to you for a second. There are three key questions I want to ask you to get everything started. The first thing is, how many of you have set goals for yourself? And by a show of hands, I can't see you, but I assume you're all raising your hands right now. That's the first question. The second question is, how many of you have achieved all of your goals? How many of you have achieved all your goals? When I do this program with groups of 100 people and the hands go up for setting goals, and then very few hands go up when I ask, have you achieved all your goals? The third question is a very interesting question that I want you to really think about. And that is, how many of you have not achieved more goals than you actually have achieved? That's a bit of a head scratcher at first, but let me ask you again. How many of you have actually not achieved more goals than you actually have achieved? And if we look at the history of our goal setting process in life, I would imagine that the majority of us are in that boat. We've set more goals than we actually have achieved. We want to move, starting today, to achieving more goals by not setting them. And there are 2 facts about this whole goal setting process that we've been taught over the past myriad of years. The first thing is many of us never achieve our goals. We live lives of regret, angst, and letdown. And that's probably at least part of the reason why some of you have joined this call today. You know that it doesn't feel good when we set a goal and we don't achieve it. We're left with an empty feeling. There's angst, there's regret, there's all these negative emotions that swirl around in our heads. And I want to help you get those emotions out of there and move forward in terms of achieving your goals. The second thing is, when we actually do achieve our goals, instead of feeling happy, we're left with an empty feeling. And you go, why is that? Something that I really want to do, and I actually achieve it, but it doesn't bring me the joy and fulfillment I thought it would. Can you relate to that? Is that striking a nerve in some of you out there? And I assume Jeff's shaking his head over here quite vigorously, and I assume that it is. So let's understand that the way that we've been doing it has generated these two facts. The question is, why? Why? Why do we have so many goals that we set and don't achieve? And then why do we have goals that we actually achieve and then are not happy as a result? And there's something that I want us to do. This is a first step in terms of me asking you to get involved and to think about something differently. Think about the goals that you've set for yourself that you haven't achieved. Think about the goals you have in the future that you maybe haven't gotten started, or maybe you had a start-stop where you had a good idea, you wanted to achieve something, you started it, and then something gets in the way and you stop, and you have that angst and letdown and all those negative emotions. We need to uncover why that is, because you really can't move forward unless you understand something called the root cause of the problem right now. And I'm going to give you some possible root causes, but let me help you understand what root cause analysis is. And for those of you that are involved with statistics, or know Six Sigma, or the Kaizen philosophy, you know that a big part of it is getting to the root cause of a problem so that you can affect change. And this is just an image which talks about there are symptoms of things in our lives. There's symptoms of things that we're dealing with, but is that really the root cause of the problem? And let me just take a step back, and for those of you that are married, you're gonna really relate to this story. Let's say you come home from work, and I don't wanna say male or female, let's say your spouse is at home, and you had a good day at work, you come in the house, and you are met with a not so pleasant experience with your spouse. And you thinking, what did I do? What happened? And once you talk and figure it out, you realize that it was something that happened days, weeks, months ago. And that's really the root cause. It was something that happened that carried itself into the present situation. The same thing happens with our goals. When you want to achieve something and you have a start-stop about it, or you can't get started, it's because there's a root cause of that. There's a problem. And we want to identify what is that problem. And if we can eliminate what is getting in the way of us moving forward, then we can actually start achieving our goals. So let me talk a little bit more about this process of root cause analysis, which is the first step in helping us excavate our minds to understand why we're having struggles achieving some of our goals in life. And that's a prescription pad on the right-hand side, and I've been in the medical field for a number of years. And so the point is, when you go to a doctor's office, you go in there with symptoms. You have a runny nose, watery eyes, or itchy, scratchy, whatever the case may be. And it's the doctor's responsibility to figure out what is at the root cause, what is really going on, so that he can provide a treatment regimen or a prescription or a course of therapy that treats the root cause. And we all know the detriment if you don't treat the root cause of the issue and only treat symptoms. So by understanding what is at the root cause of our lack of achievement of our goals, we have to look at the real symptom behind the problem, what is really preventing us from achieving our goals. It will allow us to address our goals at the cause level, and also brings about significant and sustained change because we eliminate the true issue and we don't put a Band-Aid on things. We really figure out the root cause of the problem. So as you think about those one or two goals I asked you to think about, let me share with you some possible causes of us not moving forward and achieving our goals. And let's see if any one of these relate to you. The first one is we forget them, right? And if I were to ask you, what was your New Year's resolution of 2014? Some of you may remember, but if I were to go back, Jeff, and say, what about 2013, 2012? We probably have forgotten them, and because they probably weren't achieved. And so we set goals and we forget them. I love the cartoon that was years ago, Coyote and the Roadrunner. You know that in this cartoon, the Roadrunner would be chased by the Coyote every episode, and the Coyote would get by an anvil, fall off a bridge, get run over, and all these terrible things would happen to the coyote. But there was one episode in which the coyote actually caught the Roadrunner. I don't know if any of you saw that episode.
My favorite episode.
My favorite too. And when the coyote caught the Roadrunner and he had the Roadrunner in his grasp, guess what he said? Now that I have you, what am I going to do? He was so busy chasing the Roadrunner that he forgot why he was chasing the Roadrunner in the first place. And Jeff, for some of us with our goals in life, we're so caught up in setting goals.
And I'm one of those guys who never was very good at writing his goals down to begin with and seeing them and having them in front of me. So this stuff rings true and it makes perfect sense.
Yep, there you go. We're going to talk about how do we address the busyness of life and how do we prevent that from getting in the way of us achieving our goals. But that is a very real issue. Another thing is, other people set goals for us. If you've ever been taught or told as a child to do this as a profession, be a doctor, a nurse, or a lawyer, other people set them for us. And so what happens is that we commit to things we're not willing to fight for. We're not willing to do. And so for some of us, this is a very real issue. So think about it. Have other people set these goals for you? Another thing is, we don't really know or understand how to achieve them. We simply don't know. And I hear people all the time that I work with, and they say, well, my goal is to open up a restaurant, and that might be one of your goals out there. And that sounds great. That sounds really good. Well, I've actually spent time with, because I'm doing a book on one of a restaurant manager who's been in the business for 30 years, and I spent time studying all the things that go into it. But if you talk to any person that actually owns a restaurant, and if you say, should I open a restaurant? The first thing they'll tell you is no, because it's very difficult. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. That just means that there are things that happen that go beyond just saying, I want to do it. There's so many things you have to do. And so the point is that different goals require different levels of effort, commitment, and sacrifice. And you have to understand what is required in terms of effort, commitment, and sacrifice to achieve that goal. And sometimes we simply don't know. So once we start down a path, let's say opening a business, and you realize that it's very difficult and there's a lot more tedious work than you thought initially, you can say, you know what, I'm just going to not do it. And then you're left with that angst of, hey, I didn't achieve the goal that I set for myself. Another issue is we are not real with ourselves. And this is a very important one. I want to tell you, and I like to talk about me, I like to do a lot of self-deprecation, but I think it's funny. Every year, you know, people, it's one of their New Year's resolutions is to get in shape and go to the gym, right? And for the first 2 months of the year, the gym is crowded and it's busy and there's all these people there. You can't get to your favorite machine and it's just a madhouse, right? Then you wait March, April, and before you know it, the gym is pretty much back to the same people that were there before. And I was someone that I told myself, I'm going to get into shape. I'm going to go to the gym and exercise and work out. And I did it for about a good month. And then, Jeff, you know what happened? I started making excuses. I didn't wake up early enough and, I'll just go tomorrow. And before I knew it, I wasn't going to the gym. But I was still paying that $25 a month fee because I thought to myself, I'm going to use it sometime. I'm going to use it sometime. Yeah. The fact of the matter is, I wasn't real with myself. I really did not want to do that. And sometimes things sound good, but we really don't want to do it. And we have to be real with ourselves. Just like I was real with myself. I told myself, I'm not going to say I want to go to the gym because I really don't want to go. But there's a reason I want to talk to you about in terms of how do you find a compelling reason to go, that despite any reasons that you shouldn't go, you do it anyway. And we're going to talk about that through this process. Another thing is, we all know what the fear of failure is, right? You try something and it doesn't work and you fail, right? But there's also something called a fear of success. And this may be something you haven't really thought about in your own situation. Sometimes we really don't want, we say we want to do something, but we really don't because we know it's going to lead to something that we probably really don't want. And I recall working with a very successful salesperson, and this person was Leadership Club, President's Council, top 20%, top 10% every year. And in those days, when I was coaching this person, the top salespeople would get promoted to manager. Well, he thought he wanted to be a manager, and he was doing really well, but all of a sudden his numbers started to slip quite a bit, right? And instead of having top sales numbers, they got steadily lower and lower. I'm thinking, what is wrong? Because this person was a perennial performer. after talking to him and excavating what was really going on, he confided in me, he said, Jamar, I'm afraid to become a manager because I don't really think that I really want that. So he started to sabotage his own career because he was afraid of success. And if you've never thought about that, take some time to really think, do you really want what you're going after? Is there a fear in your mind about actually achieving it and what it will bring? The last one is, this is the most important one. The most important one. And it has to do with the word why. And this states we are not clear on why we established the goal in the first place. I'm going to talk to you a lot about this concept because if you don't have a clear purpose for the goal or for the achievement of the goal, if you don't really understand why you want to achieve that goal, then when things get in the way and it gets difficult and you have to, take these steps and do all these things, it's going to prevent you from moving forward because your purpose isn't big enough. And we're going to talk a lot about what is your purpose? What is the reason why you want to achieve that goal? And is it big enough for you to persevere and fight through and actually achieve the goal that you set for yourself? So what's needed is a new perspective around the whole goal setting process. And there's a quote by Wayne Dyer I use daily, which is, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. These are a couple of cartoons here. The lady on the left says the glass is half full. The guy's like, the glass is half empty. Or the person at the bottom says, is your glass half full or half empty? The person says, you know what, I don't care, just fill her up. And then this picture on the right, which is kind of funny, these are me and my 3 brothers. I think my parents had a discount on that outfit back in the day. But we used to always dress the same. But the point is, we all grew up in the same household, same parents, same disciplines, same schools. We have completely different perspectives. And it's all a matter of how you think about your situation. So that's the power of the mind we're going to talk about. So what is this new perspective? The new perspective is we've all been taught about the goal setting process. And there's a lot of different goal setting processes out there. There's STAR goals. There's SMART goals. There's big audacious goals. There's all these things we've been taught, right? And every time we look to set a new goal for ourselves, we go back to what we already know, or what we already think we know, what we've already been trained on. But if you really think about it, if I've been trained on those things and I've been doing those things and I'm still having an issue with achieving my goals, maybe it's time to look at it a little bit differently. And that's what I'm asking everyone to do today. So this is the reality of your current situation. That is your past thoughts plus your past behaviors equals your current results. Once again, your past thoughts plus your past behaviors equal your current results. So to understand what your current situation is, look at what you've thought about your goal setting process in the past, what you've done in terms of the process, and that leads to your current results. And the first question I ask clients is, are you happy with your current results? That's the very first question. And if you're happy with your current results, then there's no need for Jamar Brown or the Kaizen way, the goal setting process. But if you want to continually improve yourself, if you think that there's a way for you to get better, if you know that there's something you could be doing better or different in your life, then this is for you. So how do we start to do that? The thing is to approach it with a beginner's mindset. I'm going to ask you to sort of set aside all that you think you know about the goal setting process, all the SMART goals and the big audacious goals and everything else, and just sort of say, let me just be in the moment right now on this studio cast and think and internalize what we're going to do next to see if it really makes a difference in your life. So this is the success equation. We know that the first equation of our current reality is past thoughts plus past behaviors equal current results. So how do you change your future? How do you go from not achieving goals to actually achieving goals? And this is what we're going to do. The first thing is your current thoughts today on this call. How well you engage on this studio cast. I keep saying call, sorry about this, studio cast. How well you engage in the studio cast. How well you take notes. How well you really take all that you can from this call and how you internalize those thoughts. Add your current behaviors today, because all that you can control is what's happening right now at this moment. The past has already happened. All that you can control is this very moment, and the fact that you've invested your time to be on the studio cast tells me you're someone who's very committed to your success. So your current thoughts plus your current behaviors will equal your future results. So please remember this equation. So with that said, let's think about one of your goals. And I will say that this program, this goal setting program, I've done it over a weekend for some companies. I've done it for an entire day. So to condense it down in an hour, I'm giving you a very cursory overview of what it's all about. So understand that we're not going to do a deep dive into everything, but I want to give you some key concepts to think about. There's something called the gap. And if I were to say, we're all going to run a marathon tomorrow, how many of you would be prepared to run that marathon? Let's say that was our goal, right? We're going to run a marathon tomorrow. And the idea of the marathon, or the completion of it, is somewhere out in the future, right? It's something you want to do in the future. A goal is something you want to do in the future, but then you have to understand your current reality. When you step up to the starting line, where are you? And I mentioned that the people that have talked to me about wanting to open up a restaurant or a fast food chain, and they say, oh, that's what I want to do, and that's in the future. And I say, okay, how prepared are you to do that right now? Do you understand what goes into it? Do you understand all that you need to do? Do you understand the tax implications? Do you understand the location and all these things? And the better prepared they are at the starting line, the better chance they will have for success. And so the goals you've set for yourself, the things that you've written down, you've thought about, those two things, think to yourself, if this is what I want to achieve, how prepared am I right now? And the point of the starting line, which is today, of your idea of what you want to achieve, and the actual end result, which is the attainment of it, is called the gap. And it's the mindset and the behaviors that will determine how successful you are in terms of achieving your goals in life. So a quick story about the gap, which is very telling. Years ago, I was invited to go to Mexico to do a 50-mile fun bike ride with some friends. And a week before going down to Mexico for this fun bike ride, I looked at the map of the bike ride. And it looks pretty straightforward. You start at Rosarito and you finish in Ensenada, right? Pretty straightforward. That's how I always approach our goals. I went up in a restaurant, you said, okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. However, let me tell you something. I didn't have a bike. I hadn't ridden a bike in 20 years. So I go out and buy this mountain bike, even though the guy in the store tried to convince me to buy a street bike, which is better tires and easier to navigate. But I was stubborn. I bought a mountain bike because I thought it looked cool. I went to the beach the day before the race, rode around for 2 hours, and then got in the truck to go down to Mexico the next day for this 50-mile fun bike ride, thinking it was going to be an easy ride. And of course, the night before, you're having a good time. And I ended up not getting money out of the ATM to buy food the next day. I woke up late, didn't have breakfast, had $7 in my pocket, and I get on this bike race, and this is what it looks like. I didn't know it was going to be this big. And sometimes we don't understand what is all involved in our goal setting process. So to make a long story short, I end up, everyone finished the race within 4 hours or so. I rolled in, walking my bike, nearly dead, 7 hours later. And I forgot to mention that since I didn't have money, I tried to buy something from one of the vendors on the street, and all I could afford was a banana. And I saw the banana, but didn't even buy the water. And then there were buses that would come by to pick people up. I was stubborn and didn't want to get on the bus. So I rolled across the finish line, or walked across the finish line, 7 hours late. And I ended up passing out, and I ended up in a medical tent in Mexico. And for the next 2 days, I was in my hotel room, dehydrated, nearly dead. So the point in all this, and I love sharing the stories, because when you think about it, when you say you want to do something, right? And it's how much do you prepare yourself? How are you preparing yourself for what you're trying to accomplish? Do you understand what you really need to do? And then along the path, are you staying focused on putting yourself in the best position possible at every step of the way to have success? So with that said, we're going to wrap up my portion of this program in a second, but I want to leave you with a 3-step process for achieving your goals. And once again, this is a cursory overview. I would invite all of you to tune in next Thursday, same time, to really do a deep dive into this 3-step process, but I at least wanted to give you the 3 steps to at least give you something to think about as we go off and go about our business. So the first thing is, what actions or thoughts are getting in the way of your aspirations? Now that we've talked about the root cause analysis, we've talked about getting rid of negative thoughts and behaviors or things that aren't working for you, what actions or thoughts are getting in the way of your aspirations? And in what areas are you not in alignment with what you're trying to achieve? What is the root cause of any issues or challenges affecting your ability to move towards the attainment of your goals? And there's a really big one that we're going to dive in next week, that if this affects you, please tune in next week, because I'm going to give you some really strong tools on how to deal with it. And it's a 4-letter word, and it's probably not the word you're thinking of, but the word is fear. And fear is probably the biggest detriment to our success in life. It is a killer of dreams. It is something that halts our progress. And so I'm going to give you some really key things how to eliminate fear and self-doubt in your life, okay, next week. And then when you think about those two things, what is the gap right now? What you want to achieve and where you are today. What is the gap? How big is the gap in terms of where you are today and what you want to achieve? So with that said, let me discuss with you the Kaizen Way philosophy, which is a 3-step approach to start achieving your goals by not setting them. And Kaizen means continuous improvement, and we'll discuss more about that next week. But today, these are the 3 things I want you to do, or what you can do to help you move from not achieving your goals to achieving your goals faster and with more fulfillment. The first thing is change the idea of a goal to the term excellence. And I really rarely use the word goal because if you look at the definition of a goal, it's the end point. It's the terminal point of a race. It's when things end. But with anything in life, whenever you accomplish something, it's not when something ends, it's when something begins. If you want to get promoted to a manager, it's not, I'm a manager and everything's great. It's no, you have a whole new set of challenges and things you have to deal with. When you want to become a top salesperson and you become that top salesperson, for some people it's very lonely because you realize there's only one of you. And you realize that the company says, well, what have you done for me lately? And next year everything gets reset. So that's why I have an issue with the term goal as a definition. When you think about the term excellence, and that is what you are trying to achieve, who you are trying to become, what legacy are you trying to leave behind, when you relate that to your goals, you have a much better chance of achieving them. Because when you define your excellence, that is to live according to your purpose and to what you want to become, and relentlessly pursue that every single day. I mentioned that I've written 2 books. The first book took me 7 years to write. The second book took me 1 night. And you say, why was a drastic difference? Well, because the first book, I spent the first 6 years thinking about how I was going to write the book. And I had all the doubt and the excuses and all the things that got in the way. And I struggled with it. But here's the funny thing is, fear is such a big part of it, and that was one of my root causes of me not writing the book, was that here I was, went from a summer intern, almost got fired, salesperson of the year, and who wanted to write a book on sales, but I was afraid to write a book on sales because I was afraid that people might not like the book on sales. So, but who better to write a book on sales than someone who's been successful? But that's the power of fear, and if fear is affecting you, then please come back next week. So, define your excellence. What is your purpose? And the reason why it took me, after 6 years of thinking about the book, to actually writing the book the following year was because of my daughter. I realized that I had been thinking about this for so many years, and I thought, what legacy do I want to leave behind for her? I thought about all the salespeople that I knew I could help and affect by sharing my thoughts and ideas. And that became bigger than any self-doubt or fear about whether the book would sell 1 million copies or 1 copy. And so when your purpose is bigger than the work required to do something, you will actually do it. And that's why when you look at exercise, if you look at opening a restaurant, you look at starting your own business, if you look at anything you want to look at in life, think about it as not just a goal you want to achieve, it's what are you trying to become? What is your idea of excellence? What does it mean? What is your purpose? What is your why? I know people that have stopped drinking, taking drugs cold turkey because their purpose got bigger. They wanted to see their grandchildren grow up and go off to college, and they didn't want to not be around to experience their life. And when you have a purpose and a why that is that big, you will be inspired to go after your goals. So change the idea of a goal to excellence. What are you trying to become? What are you trying to achieve? What is your purpose and what is your why? The second thing is, which is what I love, and that is to eliminate wasteful thoughts and behaviors. Don't start and do this 10-step program and run off and start doing more things. Before you move forward, take a step back and see what's in the way of my success. And you have to understand that every thought or action either takes you closer to or further away from your excellence. So eliminate any thought or action that does not take you closer to your excellence. That's the second part of the process. What is in the way? What is at the root cause of you not achieving your goals thus far in your life? And what can you get rid of to help you move forward? The third step is continuous improvement. And as I said before, this is a building process. It is a process. And the whole idea is that we focus on improvement every single day as opposed to being overly focused on the big goal. If you say you want to open a restaurant, that's something big. That's huge, and there's so much that goes into it. But if your gap is wide enough such that you've never even looked into opening a restaurant, but you want to open a restaurant, you have to break it down into smaller pieces. Maybe read a book about it, talk to some people, celebrate the small successes on your path as opposed to being focused on the end result. Because when you focus on the end result, you constantly are reminded of what you haven't done, right? When you focus on the end result, the big picture, you're constantly reminded of what you haven't done, which can lead to frustration and you not moving forward. So break it down into smaller pieces and have a step-by-step continuous improvement process to help you on your path. So once again, the 3-step process, number 1 is to identify your purpose, the why in your life for each one of your goals. Take some time and write down, why do I really want to do this? And make sure that that purpose is big enough to persevere through all the trials and tribulations on your journey. The second thing is to eliminate any wasteful thoughts and behaviors that are getting in the way of your success that you know are affecting you. And the final step is to have a continuous improvement mindset. Focus on small steps and celebrate those successes. And also celebrate the challenges because they teach you more about yourself. And if you can overcome those small challenges, then you'll become a stronger person moving forward.
You know, Jamar, the one thing that you use the word purpose, and I think for many people, obviously that can be different it should be different for everybody. I mean, everybody's different, everybody's unique. And for some people, purpose may be spiritual, it may be more of of leaving a legacy behind and being able to leave maybe financial security for your family and for others, gifting to organizations that you feel strongly about, or just maybe being the number 1 salesperson in your company. I think that the thing that I think is not always real clear to people when they're trying to sit down and think about their purpose is that it may not be something that people can readily come to grips with in the span of a night or 2 nights or a day or 3. This is something that could take people some time and some serious thought and consideration when they're considering what their purpose is. I mean, you're talking about something that's ultimate. Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Yes and no, and I'll give you the yes and no. Yes, okay. If you've never thought about your purpose and your why, then yes, it's going to take some time to really think about it, to really get clear on what's really important to you as it relates to the achievement of this goal. The no part is, there's some ways to really get to it very quickly. For example, some people say, I want to make money. I want to make a lot of money. When I have salespeople, they say, I want to make money. I said, well, is it that you really want to make money, or is it you want to be able to do things with the money that you make? And when you dive into it, they say, well, I want to be able to send my child to private school. I want to be able to, to buy my first home, to build a home for my family. I wanted to save money to get married. These are all things that people have told me that I work with. And so I say, well, forget about making money is a goal. You can make money, but think about what's bigger than that. The purpose is not to make money. The purpose is to build a home for your family. The purpose is to have a dream wedding. The purpose is to provide for your children in a way that maybe your parents weren't able to because of X, Y, and Z reason. So it's very clear to get to your purpose that way. Think about when you achieve something, what is it really doing for you? What do you really want it to do? And that's one way to identify your purpose.
Another question that I have for you, Jamar, it seems to me sometimes, and I'm just speaking from my own past, and I think probably from my own present too. Sometimes I know if I have an objective, mm-hmm. nothing quite as ultimate as that purpose, trying to realize my purpose, but I've got a goal in mind, mm-hmm. and it's a measurable period of time that seems reasonable. Maybe it's a year or 2 years down the line, mm-hmm. something I'd like to do. I sometimes feel like looking back on it after I failed to achieve it, or after maybe I decided, maybe it wasn't reasonable in the first place. Mm-hmm. I sometimes stop to think, you know what? I was actually taking steps. I was achieving these little steps toward that goal. Mm-hmm. And there's a certain amount of regret that comes with knowing that, while maybe that was an unrealistic goal, or I thought that it was, and that's why I stopped pursuing it, mm-hmm. I was actually making some strides. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. to get there.
Right.
I mean, have you ever thought about that, or has that ever happened to you or people that you've consulted with?
Absolutely. And here's a question. The question is, does the past exist?
Well,
And that's the question I ask the audiences I talk to.
It's kind of a hard one to answer. I mean, in effect, no, it doesn't.
Exactly. But when I ask most people, they say the past does exist because I experienced it, I was there, I lived it. And I say, well, when you look at it differently, that change of perspective, the past doesn't exist. Your thoughts about the past are what exists. Because two people can experience the same thing, see the same thing, but have a totally different perspective on it. For example, you can say years ago that this girlfriend that broke up with me, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. You look back years later, you go, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, right? What's the difference? The difference is the mindset. And so when you look at, that's why I said at the start, stay neutral. The past was neither good or bad, it was a learning experience. Every experience that you have, whether you think it's good or bad, can be affected or changed based on your thought process about it. So when you look at goals you haven't achieved, don't look at it as I haven't achieved this or haven't achieved that. Look at it as, this is what I've learned from that experience. I'm glad I went through that because it taught me more about myself so that I'm better prepared to move forward in my life today. So that is the power of really using the mindset that we all have and the capabilities of our mind to change our past and to learn from it in a way that helps us in our current situation.
How do you deal with those particular types of situations and the naysayers and the ones who they don't intend to bring you down, but by their words or their lack of encouragement aren't especially supportive?
Well, the first thing is, and this is very interesting, anyone that says that to me, that says that they're being met with negativity or naysayers, I say congratulations, because that means you're actually doing something. And the more that you try to accomplish in life, the more naysayers, the more negativity, and the more challenges you're going to have. And so if you're in that situation, congratulations. That means you're actually trying to do something. So now how do we deal with that? Because that's very real. One of the steps is to, once again, go back to your purpose. Go back to the reason why you're trying to accomplish it. Because I will guarantee that if your purpose is bigger than all the negativity around you, you're going to move forward. If your purpose is not big enough, then when somebody brings up something negative or challenges you, you're probably going to crumble. So what is your purpose? Is it big enough? And then also, as I said before, embrace that. I mean, that's a good thing because people are telling you things. You're getting feedback. And that means you're actually moving forward with your life, which a lot of people don't do. So whenever you encounter negativity, drama, gossip, embrace it. Make sure your purpose is big enough. And if it is, you will continue to move forward.
So then let me just ask a question about your last step, talking about continuous improvement. Could that include someone that maybe holds you accountable to the steps that you're taking toward achieving your goal, to keep you moving forward and to keep pressing you toward continuous improvement?
Yes, and there's something called the tribe mentality, and that is whenever someone tries to achieve something, and when they're part of a group, whenever someone does something that's not part of that group, for example, when I wanted to leave corporate America and start my own business, the majority of people around me said, you're crazy. When I thought about writing my book, a number of people said, oh, you can't write a book, it's too difficult. And so my tribe was telling me that that's not what you should do, right? Because the whole point of a tribe is everyone does the same thing, everyone stays the same. But when you try to do things and try to accomplish things in life, you're stepping outside of that tribe. What I would tell people is to have confidence that when you step out on your own and you really move forward to try to achieve something, you will find people that support you, people that you never even thought were around that will come out of the woodworks to support you. And I found that every time I've had a big goal, salesperson, or sales manager, start my own business, my own company, writing a book, everybody around me initially said, don't do it. But then when I stepped out and actually did it because my purpose was big enough, it turned out extremely well every single time.
Give us another quick tease, if you would, on next week's show for our next episode, and that's 2.0.
Yes. So next week, once again, I hope you got a lot out of today's program. I want to thank you once again for tuning in, and I hope that we at least uncover some of the areas that are getting in the way of our success in terms of your goal setting and your goal attainment. And I would encourage you to come back next week. We're going to continue to uncover what we find that's getting in the way of our success. And we're also going to dive into how do we conquer fear and any main reasons why we're not moving forward. And we're going to dive into a bit more of the process of stop setting goals and start achieving them. So I look forward to everyone signing in next week as well.
And if people want to get in touch with you, connect with you somehow between now and then, what can they do?
Yes, Twitter is at Jamar_Brown. Email me info@thekaizenway, and Kaizen is spelled KAIZEN way.com. And also you can call me directly at 949-371-9077. Once again, 949-371-9077. And the last thing I want to touch on is, remember the Summer Sales Success Series. If you're in sales out there right now, and you want to really go to the next level in your sales, you want to achieve great things, you want to learn, the process of going from a bottom salesperson to a top salesperson, you want to learn the secrets that I've taught people over the years, and then tune in to the Summer Sales Success Series, which is going to start in July. We'll be sending out a lot of information about that. It'll be a 6-part program, and is guaranteed to make sure that your third and fourth quarter of 2014 will be your best quarters ever, and you will set yourself on a path to be an incredibly successful salesperson. So please be on the lookout for that Summer Sales Success Series.
Jamar, excellent. Great work, great effort. Enjoyed the show.
Jeff.
You
Thank you
bet.
very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Now, coming up after Jamar's next studio cast, which will be streamed live on June 26th, Dwight Cromie, CEO of StudioCast Pros, will present the StudioCast Marketing Process Revealed. Now, during that StudioCast, small business owners and marketing managers in any industry will learn in detail about the strategy and unique combination of tactics included in a complete StudioCast campaign, and all the benefits and advantages to your business. Also coming up, Mobile Mary Barnett, CEO of Brilliant Mobile Marketing, will present her StudioCast on how to use social media effectively as an essential part of your business marketing strategy, particularly in order to reach your customers and clients on the go. And I don't know if you've met Mobile Mary. She is delightful. She is really going to be great. So I hope that you make it a point to sign up for that. Now, if you'd like information on hosting your own StudioCast, or if you'd like to get on our email list for updates about upcoming shows and any other news that we have coming to you, call 951-781-8624, or you can send us an email to info@studiocastpros.com. Now, you can also stop by our website at studiocastpros.com and complete the form on the homepage to reach us that way. And then finally, don't forget to visit the upcoming page there on our website, where you can actually register for upcoming StudioCast streams, including our next StudioCast with Jamar Brown. That's next week. We hope you've enjoyed this event. My name is Jeff Allen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone.